Jeremy gave me a heads up and gave me the opportunity to come speak to you guys, and so I took down some notes. Hopefully I hit the target. I'll do best I can and then open it up. But I guess first and foremost, as your men's basketball coach, I value academics very, very much so. And hopefully you feel the same sentiment here after the next few minutes. But it's why we're all here. This is the University of Florida, make no mistake about it. And it's something that we talk to our guys about. It. Sometimes I joke and jest with our players as they talk about, I had this, but I wanted to do this academically, and they have decisions to make. And I say, well, you got your priorities all out of whack. Don't worry about your math test. This is all about, and it's obviously a huge joke. What we tell our guys all if it weren't for faculty and staff and students, you wouldn't exist. I wouldn't exist. Our athletic department wouldn't exist. None of these teams would exist. And that's why we're all here. But we as coaches and student athletes, we simply represent this university through athletic competition. So Jeremy has an unbelievable culture within our athletic department. Our athletic department is the number one athletic department in the country. The numbers speak for themselves. But I think what a lot of people that aren't here don't understand and don't appreciate as much as we do within this athletic department is the culture. And perhaps the biggest reason that, I was ready to get on the interstate and just start running down here when he called me was because of the culture and the core values that he wants to stand for within our athletic department are passion, integrity, excellence, respect, innovation, and teamwork. Not talked about as much. And as obvious as anything is the mentoring and education of student athletes. Every decision that's made by administrators and by coaches, and if not, should be based in the best interest of our student athletes. Also, within that culture and those values is the protection of the brand of the University of Florida, of our institution. Putting the institution first and athletics second. Our values and our decisions should all represent that. Every decision made. We can also uphold those values by every hire that's made. We have a lot of guys in our practice facility that report to me. I'm still learning. Coach Donovan had a bunch of guys. He won a lot of games, and he had a bunch of guys reporting to him. And it was about a month there before I understood who all did what. But through the, re-recruiting of those people that I've gotten a chance to develop relationships with, and the hiring of new employees and new people that report to me, so on and so forth, throughout the athletic department, in every program, who we hire, we want to hire people with character, with integrity. We will do backgrounds upon backgrounds in terms of how they treat people, their academic prioritization, of course. So again, that's why we're here. And then the emphasis on the UF brand and the protecting of University of Florida brand. We also can uphold those values by who, on a daily basis, who we recruit and who we sign to come here and compete in intercollegiate athletics. How will they represent the University of Florida? There needs to be continued re-emphasis relative to how they can, again, affect our brand positively and negatively. Student athlete, as cliche as it sounds, it's something that we talk to our student athletes about on a consistent basis. It's student first, it's athlete second. You're here to get a degree. You're here to work toward a meaningful degree. We want recruits that are serious about earning a very meaningful degree at a prestigious institution, as they are about playing professional basketball. And here we like to tell them and remind them, especially through the recruiting process, that the University of Florida degree is even a little bit more prestigious than those other schools that are recruiting you. But at some point, the ball stops bouncing in our sport. Every coach has got their line. In our sport, the ball will stop bouncing, no matter how many hours you put into it, how many games you win, so on and so forth. And what comes next? What are you preparing for every day in that regard for when the ball stops bouncing in life? Are you prepared? Will you be prepared? Your degree is most important. Again, your UF degree is a little bit better. Academics always come first in our program. No excuses. We have We have 2 signs up in our practice facility with huge bold letters on big poster board. It looks nice and pretty, and it says no excuses. And we refer to it a lot with regard to basketball, and we refer to it a lot with regard to life, to academics. There's a carryover effect in all of it, in our opinions, in my opinion for sure as our head coach. But weights, workouts, treatments, anything athletically related, it'll never trump class, tutors, advisors, a meeting with a teacher, so on and so forth. Practice and workout schedules always revolve around our players' academic success, and that's the way that it's got to be. That's why we're here. Our daily schedule is never changed for personal reasons. If I have a player come to me and say, I didn't get enough sleep last night, can we change practice? No, we can't. This isn't about you. This program is going to keep rolling, and you need to be prepared. This is a stringent schedule. This has been, we have scheduled today, heck, sometimes 3 weeks ago. But anything with regard to Tom Williams may be calling and saying, hey, so-and-so has an opportunity, there's a good tutor tonight, and 2 or 3 of your guys are in a class that they may benefit from this. Hey, we're changing practice. We're changing whatever we have to do. Academics comes first, and that's the way that it needs to be. Academic accountability. If you're late for anything, and I tell guys this from the first time I ever even have a recruiting conversation with them, just so you know, don't call your mom when I run you, or your dad. If you're late for anything academically, period, and that could be an academic advisor, it could be a tutor, it could be class, whatever, a study session, you run. And if you're late again, you run more. And at some point, guys get the drift that they didn't sign up for a track scholarship. And they, they'd rather shoot, they'd rather play, at least my guys. Mouse's guys can run, and they do it really well. And then if you miss practice. And if you don't practice, you don't play in games. And that's how we hold our guys accountable. It's pretty simple. But coaches, believe it or not, we're educators as well. Maybe not quite as good as educators, and that's why we have to pick a sport. We can't teach math or English or what have you. And so I chose basketball, and sometimes we don't do a great job of that, but we're trying. But we also spend a lot of time educating about life, and we have opportunities to teach life lessons through basketball. That's what we do. I want to touch on our 3 team rules real quick. Be on time, be loyal, and be a man. In our circumstance, obviously, we coach young men, and it's our charge by the time that they graduate from the University of Florida that we've helped them improve, helped them mature. Hopefully, if they're not a man, they're at least close to being a man, and they're a lot more responsible and mature and more giving of themselves and so on and so forth. But I'm just a big believer in keeping it simple in that regard. We don't have 100 rules. I feel like those 3 rules, be on time, be loyal, and be a man, encompass everything. Everything that could go wrong, everything that could go right. So many teaching points, again, can be consolidated to those 3 points. But being on time, if you're always on time, you're prioritizing school, you're prioritizing class, tutors, you're prioritizing this team, this program. You've learned how to become compliant. We tell our guys all the time, there's some very, very average players in the NBA that have just never gotten in trouble, and that's why they're there. That's why they're 12-year pros. Some of them are averaging 4 points and 3 rebounds, but they're pretty compliant people. There's very successful people in big companies that are making a good living that, have just never really gotten in trouble, and they're always on time. They're always where they're supposed to be doing the right things. Being loyal, you can use it with our guys. We use it in terms of being loyal to yourself, being loyal to your family, being loyal to this institution, being loyal to your program. And again, it encompasses so many different things that we talk about on a daily basis. And of course, being a man, every decision that you make, your outlook on life, your ownership over those decisions and that outlook, reality to you. Do you live in some student athletes in today's day and age they live in a fantasy world. A lot of not only student athletes but young students, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And it's our charge again to give them reality and perspective on a daily basis. But one of the things as a young coach, when I was recruiting at 23 to 27, I'd always talk about the 4-year relationship that we are going to have with these student athletes. If you come to Jacksonville State or if you come to University of Mississippi, we're going to have a great 4-year. This is what's going to happen over the next 4 years, so on and so forth. And what we've learned is that this is a 50-year relationship. And that's what we started referring to more with our student athletes, not only when you're recruiting them, but when they're on campus as freshmen and sophomores. We want this to be a 50-year relationship to where they're always drawing back on things that they learned at the University of Florida now, in my circumstance, not only, again, in math and in English, but what they learned from the educators on the basketball floor and in the basketball facility. So just a couple more quick thoughts here to finish up, but our reputation is unbelievable, and these are some of the things that we use in recruiting. We're the second-ranked public institution by Kiplinger. If I get a pronunciation wrong, please correct me. You guys are, I'm sure, more familiar. The third best college for student athletes in the country by niche. Is that correct? Jamie, you know these things, right? Widely regarded as one of the best combinations of athletics and academics in the entire country. Our basketball program is in the top 10% in the APR, the academic progress rate. I'm not a mathematician, but there's 351 Division I schools, so I think that puts us like in the top 35 about. And then we use this Hawkins Center. Of course, this place is gorgeous, $25 million commitment to University of Florida academic success for student athletes, 74 study rooms, unbelievable. The people make the facility as much as anything, obviously, and make this thing go. I mentioned Tom earlier, does a terrific job for us. I know there's a number of great advisors over here and tutors. This Hawkins Center enhances the reputation that was already stellar within our athletic department with regard to academics on a national basis. I'll give you one quick example. Canyon Berry is a guy that is a graduate transfer for us. He was a 4.0 at College of Charleston. He was an academic All-American. Without the reputation, again, academically of the University of Florida, without this place, I'm not sure Canyon Berry comes here, and we beat some good schools to get him. So in closing, I understand that this is an academic school, and we embrace that, and we'll continue to value that and protect that.
Good, thanks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now's the time to ask the coaches the question, the answers to which you always wanted to know.
Free throws are off limits.
Coach, I have a question. Given the increasing options for online courses, what are the opportunities and problems that presents for your team and students?
I'm not overly familiar. Anything academically, I call Tom. I would say I give it my best shot. Obviously, online courses give students more flexibility. So that's the positive. The negative is I know I've had a couple students not do well in those courses because of time management, of forgetting they had a quiz or what have you. So I think there's positives and negatives to it. Here with the support and the resources that we have, again, with the people in this building, I think I don't think we've had any issues since I've been here in the year plus that I've been here. I think our guys have been held pretty accountable by their mentors and advisors.
How do you deal with the one and done attitude?
I'm definitely open to it. I'm open to it. We're not in a position right now where we're turning away one and dones. Maybe we'll be in a position in the next few years to be able to make those decisions. I would be leery about having a bunch of them, those type student athletes. I'm a big believer in the process and in continuity. And with our program, I'd like to try to find a way to get older. We got older this year through recruiting, and then find ways creatively through an occasional transfer, an occasional red shirt, maybe an occasional one and done type guy, if you're able to get those guys to stay older, if you could. But ultimately, you want the majority of your roster to, in my opinion, to grow under you and to enhance your program over time. The longer they're here, the more that they can that they can help your program, and the more you can help them. And then ultimately, you want anyone who puts on a Florida uniform to earn a degree one day. And
Sure.
I just think it's harder. It's obviously very hard for guys here 1 year to come back and finish it. It's doable, but it becomes harder.
Yeah.
It's a bad rule, but it exists. You know, and if you look at even Billy's history, we didn't have a lot of those guys. You know, Brad Beal was one, and Brad Beal was also a 4.0 guy out of high school. So you're going to take a guy like that.
Sure.
But Mike's right, you're not going to be great on a consistent basis if you're turning your roster over every single year. But,
Sure.
you know, to us, it's contrary to what college athletics is all about. It's amazing nobody else gets that, you know, in terms of the people who make these decisions. But, you know, but again, you're not going to shy away from it. Maybe you have a guy like Brad Beal who's a 4.0 and wants to come here. He's the third pick in the whole draft. I mean, he came within one game getting us to the Final Four, but the rest of the team were the guys Mike was talking about, you know, the ones who were growing under Billy at that time. So it's not a perfect science, but I don't think you ever see the University of Florida have 5 or 6, 7 of those guys on your team.
Yeah.
You know, that may be fun for a year. It's not going to be fun coming down the road.
And the concern is with those kids is they never get through with their academics.
They never do. They never do.
They think they might. Many of them plan on it, but once they get away from it, and then once their professional career is over, they're not in a good place. And so as an academician, I worry about them in that regard.
I got you.
Anything else, anyone?
I think I have more of a comment than a question. And first of all, as a graduate of the College of Charleston, I thank you for putting them on your radar screen. Baseball too. So, so your 3 rules: being on time, being loyal, being a man. I so wish we could translate these to the male population here throughout campus. Present company excluded. In looking at our data, this is the type of messaging we desperately need for many of our male students. So I guess the question is can you see a way that we could do that? Is translating that from what you are teaching these young men, these valuable rules and lessons, to the greater population? Because I can't see anything more influential than coming from your program.
Thank you for the faith in what we're doing. I appreciate that. It's a great question. I wish I had a great answer for you.
But you don't
Be
need
open
to
to
have a great
suggestions.
answer, but
Yeah.
there might be opportunities if
Well,
Yeah.
I think if the university as a whole, you know, working with student government, had a plan to try to convey those messages, I think our athletic programs would want to participate. A couple of years ago, they had a, you know, when there was a lot of issues revolving around, you know, respecting women, you know, but it was a campus initiative that our athletes participated in. And I think something you just mentioned, to me, would have to come out of, you know, student government and approaching us and us selecting the right people to convey that message. But, you know, we're all in this thing together. So, yeah, I can see that happening. I can see that happening very, very, very strongly. I can see that happen.
Let me follow up on that then. Okay.
Yeah, I'd be happy to help in any way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else, anyone?
I had a quick question.
Please.
In your coaching career throughout the kind of your time working with student athletes, have you noticed a change? You know, a lot of ink has been spilled in terms of millennials and different characteristics of different
Yes.
generations. Some of that I think is just, that's kids, you know, always kind of been, and everyone kind of says various things about them. You can see the same articles been published over decades in some cases.
Right.
But in other cases, and I'm in the College of Medicine, I see medical students, they're operating in a very different way
Mm-hmm.
than what I did when I was a medical student. And it's not necessarily good or bad, but how do you see, as you as a basketball coach and an educator, have to change to keep up with those potential changes? Or do you see that there's
Yeah.
changes going on?
Absolutely. First off, there absolutely is all kinds of change going on with this generation, and we talk about it ad nauseum. We study it. We go listen to different speakers. We watch film as a staff. We've listened to some of those podcasts. You know, we try to educate ourselves as much as possible. We spend a ton of time talking to our team about those type things, not only basketball. We in fact, probably since mid last season, we've talked as much about life and teamwork and communication and all those things as we have about basketball strategy. And I think it's probably going to continue to increase that way. I'm from the old school mentality. Our guys know that. I talk about that. When I played at the University of Mississippi, the makeup of us individually and collectively was completely different than what it is today. And I think that 10 years ago, as an assistant at Ole Miss, it was probably about down the middle, you know, where the social media has changed everything, you know, for student athletes, for recruits, for recruiting, for current student athletes. I mean, these guys, there's so many battles, and this could be literally an 8-hour conversation and then get right back at it the next morning. But there's so many different levels of noise and noise outlets is what we call it with these guys. You know, we could have a really good win, and your rule may be you can't turn your phones on. We're talking. This is our place. You know, what's said in here stays in here. Let's not have any distraction, and we can all be on the same page. And as soon as our 13 scholarship players walk out of that locker room and they turn on that phone, you're talking about a bunch of different information that is some of it is polluting the message that we just gave them. Some of it might be enhancing, but you don't know what our guys are reading and how often they're reading it and who's calling them and what's written about them and how they take that. And so that's just one factor, just all the information. The amount of media attention that our student athletes, all of them in all sports really, our basketball guys have a lot written about them and said about them, and the amount of time that they're social networking, period, you know, with each other, with other students. How does that affect their academic process? How does that affect their focus for practice? How does that affect their priorities? You know, I think one thing that we're fighting, and this isn't only relative to generation, but I think this is something we fight at the University of Florida, that this is a wonderful place. You know, you walk outside and it's gorgeous out. Tracy and I were walking to the car half hour ago and we said, wow, it's gorgeous out. And at the University of Florida, we can have a really, really tough loss, and it's a Saturday afternoon game in February, and you walk outside, you know, and it's wow, and I have so-and-so function that I can go to, and 5 or 6 friends have texted me, what are you doing tonight? And it's a different generation, you know, and we have guys walking out after a win, after a loss, after a hard practice, after a great practice, that are taking selfies of themselves, and it's something that that we try to, and hopefully I'm not offending anybody, but part of being a man is having it not be all about you. And so I'm fighting guys every day, trying to charge them to be more selfless, to be more part of something greater than them. Meanwhile, they're taking pictures of themselves all day, every day. And so it's a never-ending battle. Again, I don't know if I answered your question, but
I think so. Do they digest you differently? You know, like when you're trying to teach them either principles on the court or other things. I know there's a lot of noise from external sources,
Yeah.
but do you think have you had to change your approach?
Yes. And it's always specific to your team too, but last year, probably 2/3 of the way through the season, we changed our approach collectively as a staff. Again, you don't want to be stubborn as a coach. You don't want to be stubborn as a staff. You want to have conviction, but you also don't. You also want to continue to learn and learn about this generation and this team and what's best for him individually. And I thought we had an old school mentality there for a couple of years when I was at Louisiana Tech, even though it was only, it was 2014 or what have you. I thought we had some old souls there, that had some of the same values that I had, as a coach. But, everything was, again, it was black and white. And for us, the most important thing, period, was winning, period. And how do you get I think it's harder in this generation to get everyone in your locker room with that being their biggest goal, period. That's the most important thing to them, and the only thing important to them is let's be as good as we possibly can be, and let's just win. And if we win, then we all will benefit. We all will win. I think that that's becoming I think it's becoming harder and harder to get.
All right, thanks for coming.
Thanks, guys, so much.